Before the fall of Avaruun, no one believed a single object could carry the destiny of an entire civilization. No one imagined that a world built over millennia could be reduced to ashes in a single burst of stellar fire. And yet, that was exactly what happened. Now, across the silent fabric of cold space, one lone traveler carries the last heartbeat of a dying people, protected inside a sphere so small yet so impossibly powerful that other species whisper its name in fear. And among those whispers, one warning always stood out. The seed sings. And anything that sings in the void tends to be heard by things that should never wake. Avaruun was gone. Not fading, not crumbling, gone. Its mother star had erupted into a catastrophic supernova, shredding entire continents, vaporizing oceans, and turning every memory of the planet into glowing debris suspended in the cold vacuum. What remained was a graveyard made of light, drifting in absolute silence. But even in that cosmic ruin, a single hope survived. The matrix seed, a small obsidian sphere, smooth as cooled glass and warm like something alive. Inside it pulsed the encoded biology, history, language, and ancestral memory of Avaruun. It was not just a container, it was a condensed universe, a future waiting to happen. But futures need carriers, and carriers need courage. Kair had been chosen for that role not because he was the strongest nor the wisest. He was simply the last one left, the final living explorer of Avaruun, a survivor born from chance, grit, and a spacecraft that barely had the right to keep functioning. The seed rested in a reinforced cradle at the heart of his vessel, humming with a softness that vibrated through the metal walls like a heartbeat. Kair felt it constantly, a pulse that was not his own, a rhythm that seemed to draw breath from forgotten eras. But the hum was not the strange part. The strange part was the melody. Sometimes, during the long hours of drifting between stars, Kair could swear the seed was actually singing. Not in words or notes, but in something deeper, like memory being spoken aloud. He tried telling himself it was just electromagnetic resonance or stress or the side effect of losing everything he had ever known. But the stories said otherwise. There were rumors, ancient, half-forgotten tales, claiming that the seed's song could travel farther than light, that it could pierce the blackness between galaxies, that other beings lurking in silence were always listening for such a call. Beings who fed on creation, beings who hunted worlds before they were even born. And now, Kair was carrying the very thing they longed for. His mission was painfully simple on paper. Find a viable planet, plant the seed, allow Avaruun to be reborn. But nothing about the universe was simple anymore. As Kair prepared the Vespera, his old half-broken exploration vessel, he felt the weight of an entire species settle onto his shoulders. He was no longer a traveler, no longer a scientist or cartographer. He was a lifeline, the last thread between extinction and resurrection. And somewhere out there, in the endless dark, he knew that something had already heard the seed's song and was coming.
The Vespera was never meant to be a vessel of salvation. It had been built for exploration, old exploration, back when Avaruun's skies still shimmered blue and its oceans glowed with silver plankton. Its hull bore dents from meteor dust, scorch marks from plasma storms, and the silent memories of 100 research missions. Now it carried the last hope of a dead world. Inside its dimly lit cabin, Kair performed the final checks, though he knew every system by heart. The navigation matrix flickered with tired amber lights. The oxygen recyclers complained with uneven hums. The engines growled like an animal being awakened after too many winters. Still, the ship responded. Still, it obeyed him. Still, it tried. Kair strapped himself into the pilot's cradle, feeling the cold harness settle across his chest. His eyes drifted toward the containment core, where the seed rested, pulsing faintly behind layers of translucent shielding. It was strange. The seed's glow had changed. What once was a gentle warmth now felt sharper, more deliberate. The rhythm of its pulse had grown slightly faster, as if sensing urgency or danger. Kair whispered into the quiet, "Don't worry, I'm still here." It was foolish, speaking to an object, but the Vespera felt too empty otherwise. With a deep metallic groan, the engines ignited. Blue-white plasma spiraled from the thrusters, lifting the ship above the skeletal remains of an orbital platform, one of the last structures still drifting near what was once Avaruun. Kair watched as the glowing debris field fell away behind him. Stars swallowed the view like a velvet curtain. He was alone now, completely alone. The silent pursuit. Hours stretched into days, though time felt meaningless between constellations. Kair charted a path toward NO7, the planet with the highest compatibility readings, a world that, in theory, could support the seed's rebirth. But the journey refused to stay quiet. The sensors began detecting anomalies. First, a ping, a single blip on the long-range tracker. Kair froze. No, that can't be right. The tracking systems recalculated. Another ping, still far away, still faint, but unmistakably following their trajectory. Something was behind them. Not approaching, not calling out, just watching. Kair adjusted the ship's course, a sharp, evasive maneuver, one he had practiced thousands of times. The Vespera groaned as if objecting to the sudden shift. Minutes passed. The tracker flickered again. The signal had shifted with him. Whatever it was locked on to the Vespera. The seed responds. Kair glanced at the containment core. The seed now glowed brighter, as if the unknown presence in the dark had awakened something inside it. The hum grew deeper, the vibration stronger. A wave of energy pulsed through the cabin, enough to rattle loose instruments and make his heart race. Then, a sound whispered through the ship. Not mechanical, not accidental. A melody. Soft, ancient, almost mournful. A song that seemed to echo from far beyond his understanding. Kair gripped the controls, breath trembling. "Stop," he muttered, as if pleading with the seed. But the seed didn't stop. Its song grew clearer, louder, sharper. And the thing in the shadows of deep space heard it. Kair's voice broke through the silence. "They found us." The long-range scanners now displayed the unmistakable pattern of a vessel, or something shaped like one, trailing behind them. It moved without propulsion signatures, drifting with unnatural smoothness. A collector? A predator? Something worse? Kair didn't know, but the seeds sang anyway, and whatever hunted them was drawing closer. He tightened his grip on the controls and whispered into the cold, metallic air. "Hold on, Vespera. We have to make it to N07. We have to outrun the dark."
N07 appeared first as a flicker, a dim sphere wrapped in swirls of turbulent color, before the Vespara's scanners sharpened the image into something real, something alive. Kair leaned forward, studying the readings as they unfolded across the control panel like a nervous heartbeat. Atmospheric density, unstable. Surface composition, shifting. Magnetosphere, erratic. Seismic activity, intermittent and unpredictable, the system warned. To any sane explorer, N07 would be dismissed instantly, a world that breathed too much and too violently. But to Kair, it was possibility. He ran a hand over the glowing containment chamber where the matrix seed rested. "We don't have many choices. This is the closest match we'll ever get." The seed pulsed once, soft, warm, almost reassuring. Or was it urging, calling? Kair couldn't tell anymore. Atmospheric entry. As the Vespara descended, N07 swallowed the ship in clouds thick as molten metal. Lightning webbed across the sky, horizontal, liquid streaks that slid unnaturally through vapor before dissolving. Each flash illuminated the world beneath, revealing glimpses of jagged terrain sculpted by forces Kair couldn't begin to name. The ship shook hard. "Easy, girl," he murmured to the controls. "We've survived worse." He hoped that was true. Turbulence slammed into the hull, tossing the Vespara sideways. Alarms blared, the cockpit lights flickered. For a moment, the navigation system lost orientation entirely. Up became sideways, sideways became nowhere. And beneath it all, the seed sang. The melody cut through every alarm, threading into Kair's thoughts with unsettling clarity. It matched the rhythm of the storm, as though N07 were responding to it, or harmonizing. When the ship finally broke through the lowest cloud layer, Kair released a breath he'd been holding far too long. What he saw below took that breath right back. The ground was alive. Not metaphorically, alive. Fields of shimmering minerals stretched like scales across a giant creature. Ridges rose and fell with slow breathing motions. Valleys pulsed faintly, lighting up in waves. Dust lifted from the soil in swirling patterns as if drawn upward by invisible tides. This was not a static world. It was a system, a pulse, a network. Kair hovered the ship over a plateau that appeared stable, at least as stable as anything could be on N07. Sensors scanned. Organic signatures high. Toxicity level negligible. Mutability factor extreme. Mutability, he repeated softly. "You like that, don't you?" The seed pulsed again, stronger this time, as if answering. The Vespara touched down with a crunch that sent tremors through the entire hall. For a moment, he thought they were sinking, but the ground merely shifted beneath them, then held. He grabbed his respirator, secured the seed's container, and stepped toward the hatch. The moment the doors opened, the air hit him like a wave of warm metal. The scent was electric, ozone, minerals, and something floral buried deep beneath it all. He descended the ramp slowly, boots sinking slightly into the ground, which felt pliable, responsive, like stepping onto the hide of a sleeping giant. As he moved, Faint ripples spread beneath his feet. "Fascinating," he murmured. Then the ground answered. Not with voice, not with movement, but with awareness. Kair froze. A tremor passed under his boots, traveling outward, circling him, returning, like a world sniffing the presence of an intruder. He swallowed. "Easy," he muttered. "I'm not here to harm you." The seed vibrated in his hands, and for a few seconds, Eno 7 fell eerily still. He walked toward a valley bordered by towering stone formations shaped like ribs, arched, curved, protective. The scanners identified the soil there as the most compatible for seed germination. Kair knelt down, placing the seed against the ground. The hum intensified, resonating with the terrain. He took a long breath. "This is it," he whispered. "Live, little one, live for all of us." He pressed the seed gently into the soil. At first, nothing happened. Then, light. A thin, radiant filament rose upward, brushing against Kair's hand like a curious child. Visions sparked behind his eyes, fragments of Avaruun, forests of crystalline bark, skies filled with twin moons, laughter of a people now long gone. Tears welled, not of sadness, of recognition. The seed knew him, remembered him, and accepted him. But acceptance was only the beginning. The valley trembled again. Kair's heart pounded. "Not now! Please, not now!" Shapes appeared among the rib-like stones, slender, fluid, watching. Eyes glowed faintly in the shadows. Not predators, not yet. Observers, witnesses, and perhaps judges. Eno 7 was not just alive, it was inhabited, and they had seen him plant the seed. Kair tightened his grip on his equipment, stepping back slowly. The seed had awakened a world, and awakened things that guarded it. And far beyond the horizon, in the upper atmosphere, something else waited. Something that had followed the seed across the stars.
The seed did not awaken gently. It awakened like something remembering itself after centuries of sleep. Abrupt, powerful, and impossibly ancient. The moment Kair placed it into the pliable soil, the world around him shifted, as if Eno 7 inhaled for the first time in ages. A single beam of pale light rose from the buried seed, thin as a thread, but so bright it carved a glimmering line across the air. It hummed softly, then expanded into swirling patterns that rippled outward like concentric rings in still water. Kair stumbled back, shielding his eyes. The light twisted around his fingers, warm and trembling, as though seeking reassurance. And then, just for a heartbeat, it pulled him into itself. A window to the past. Images exploded behind his eyes, but these were not memories he had lived. These were memories he had inherited. He saw Avaruun as it once was, its oceans glowing with bioluminescent fish, its spires reaching toward 3 moons, its people thriving in harmony with the very technology that had birthed them. He felt laughter not his own, smelled forest winds that no longer existed, heard songs sung by voices now reduced to ash. And then, fire, the death of a world, the shattering of everything he once called home. The seed wasn't just alive, it remembered, and it wanted him to remember too. Kair gasped as the vision released him. Pain throbbed behind his eyes, grief wearing the mask of nostalgia. He whispered hoarsely, "I'm sorry.
I should have saved you sooner." The seed pulsed once, gently, almost as if forgiving him. But the ground beneath him wasn't done responding. The entire valley vibrated, a deep resonance traveling through the soil like the bass of an ancient drum. Cracks spiderwebbed outward in delicate patterns, not destructive, but deliberate, forming symbols, sigils, pathways, as if Eno 7 were speaking its first words to a visitor. The rib-like stone surrounding the valley began to glow faintly, picking up the seed's rhythm and echoing it back with subtle harmonies. It wasn't just sound, it was communication. Kair felt the air tense, thicken, become aware. He realized then that Eno 7 wasn't merely a planet capable of supporting the seed. It was a listener. Something moved along the periphery of the ridge, silent, fluid, watching. Kair's instincts sharpened. The creatures, those slender, shifting beings he had glimpsed earlier, stepped cautiously into the dim light cast by the seed's awakening. Their bodies refracted the glow, bending it around themselves in shimmering distortions. They were tall, but not imposing, elegant, but not fragile, alien, yet unmistakably intelligent. Their eyes, narrow slits of pale gold, remained fixed on Kair, not with aggression, with judgment. They had witnessed the planting, they had seen the seed awaken, and now they waited, as if expecting something from him. Kair raised both hands slowly, palms open. "I'm not here to take," he said. His voice trembled, but his resolve did not. "This seed carries everything my people were, everything we lost." The creatures did not move, but the world answered for them. A low hum spread across the valley, not from the seed this time, from the ground, from the stones, from Eno 7 itself. And the message was unmistakable. "You have begun something you cannot undo. We are watching. We are measuring. We are deciding." The seed vibrated, louder now, resonating with a frequency that prickled along Kair's skin. He heard its melody in the air, felt it in his bones. But the melody was no longer soft. It was broadcasting. Kair's eyes widened. "No! Stop! Don't send it out!" But the seed was awake, fully awake. Its call rose like a flare into the sky. The observers flinched, their bodies shimmering with alarm. They turned their narrow gazes upward. Kair followed their stare. High above the valley, above the storm clouds, above the turbulent atmosphere, a shadow moved. Something enormous, something cold, something that should not have been able to track them. The same presence that had followed the Vespara across the void. The seed had sung, and the hunters had heard it. Kair's heart dropped into his stomach. "No, no, not now, not here." But it was too late. Eno 7 had awakened. The seed had awakened, and so had the things that wanted to take it.
The ridge surrounding the valley shimmered as the creatures stepped fully into view. Until now, they had been only flickers in the corner of Kair's vision, shadows that moved with too much intention to be part of the terrain, yet too silently to be predators. Now, he saw them clearly. They were unlike any species cataloged in Avaruun's ancient star archives. Their bodies were long and semi-translucent, bending light as it passed through them like water through glass. Every subtle movement caused ripples of color to shimmer along their limbs. Cool blues, warm ambers, fractured gold. But it was their eyes that unsettled him most. Not hostile, not animalistic, simply aware. Eyes that seemed to measure, the way scientists might evaluate an unstable element. One of the beings moved forward, gliding rather than walking. Its feet, or what Kair assumed were feet, didn't quite touch the ground. The soil beneath them responded to its presence, tightening, firming, as if the planet itself acknowledged this creature. A pulse radiated outward when it stepped closer. The seed answered with a faint glow. Kair swallowed hard. "So, you're not here to attack?" The creature's head tilted slightly, as though trying to understand the sounds leaving his mouth. It blinked, slowly, deliberately. Then, something remarkable happened. The stone ribs surrounding the valley began to vibrate, not shaking, singing. A soft resonance filled the air, vibrating through the soil, the air, the seed, and Kair's chest. The tones formed patterns, not random, but structured, layered, intentional. It was communication, not verbal, not telepathic, planetary. The creature raised an elongated hand toward one of the stone arches. In response, the stone brightened and shifted pitch. Another stone echoed, then another. Soon, the entire valley hummed in harmony with the seed. Kair realized with a jolt that the creatures were not merely residents, they were conductors, or perhaps guardians. Not guardians of territory, guardians of balance. They weren't judging him, they were judging the seed. The lead creature stepped closer, its body shimmering with an internal light now synchronized with the seed's pulse. It extended an appendage, half limb, half flowing energy, and gently touched the soil where the seed had entered. A wave of violet light erupted from the contact point, rushing across the valley floor like a ripple through water. Kair shielded his eyes again as the light washed over him, warm and cold at the same time. The creature withdrew its hand. Then a single tone rang out, sharp, clear, unmistakably deliberate. A decision. The Vespara's translator struggled, blinking, crackling, forced to interpret something not meant for machines. After several seconds, it produced a simplistic but chilling message. Planting requires proof. Kair exhaled sharply. Proof? Proof of what? The creature didn't respond with words. Instead, the valley itself shifted. The soil beneath Kair's feet quivered, rising slightly, forming a flat circular plateau. Patterns spiraled outward, like rings on ancient bark. The stone ribs glowed brighter. Even the clouds overhead responded, pulling back from the valley like curtains drawn away from a stage. The guardian stepped back, forming a loose circle around him. This wasn't an attack. It was a test that would determine the seed's fate and his. But before Kair could speak, before he could try to communicate or negotiate, he felt it, a sudden chill, unnatural in the warm air, a pressure in the sky, a shift in the atmosphere that did not belong to Eno 7. The Guardians sensed it too. Every creature stopped moving, their colors dimmed to a darkened gold, their bodies stiffened, not in fear, but in readiness. The lead guardian slowly raised its head toward the sky. Kair followed its gaze. High above the valley, beyond the clouds, beyond the storms, something massive drifted across the upper atmosphere. A shadow, barely visible, but unmistakably present. Kair's stomach tightened. The collectors had arrived. The seed's song had drawn them. The guardians knew. Kair knew. The seed knew. But none of them moved. None of them panicked. The guardians simply watched the shadow pass, their eyes glowing faintly, as though already preparing for a confrontation they had faced before.
Kair exhaled shakily. These creatures, they're not just observers, they're protectors. And now that I've planted you, they're protectors of both of us. The lead guardian stepped closer once more, its eyes locked onto Kair's, and the translator stuttered out one final warning. More tests coming.
The valley fell silent. Not the ordinary stillness of a quiet world, but a tension-filled pause, like the universe itself holding its breath. Kair stood alone in the center of the stone circle, with the guardians forming a ring around him, their bodies shimmering with shifting tones of amber and blue. The air thickened, charged with something ancient. These were not random tests. These were rituals, designed not to challenge his strength, but his intention, and perhaps his soul. The ground beneath Kair softened, then rose, lifting him onto a platform of living stone. At its center bloomed a flower unlike anything he had ever seen, a translucent sphere of petals radiating pale gold light. It pulsed gently, as if breathing. The lead guardian approached and touched the ground with one elongated limb. A sharp resonance echoed across the platform. The translator struggled to interpret the harmonic pattern before finally producing a single phrase: "Touch only, if true." Kair frowned. True? True in what way? The flower responded before the guardians could. Its petals expanded slightly, revealing threads of shimmering energy inside. Kair felt something tug at the edges of his mind, soft at first, then sharper. The flower wasn't reading him, it was revealing him. Memories he had tried to bury surfaced violently. The explosion that wiped out his home, the screams trapped beneath collapsing structures, the helplessness as the supernova devoured all he loved. He staggered. The flower pulsed once more. Touch only, if true. A simple instruction, a dangerous one. If he touched with fear, with selfishness, with any desire other than restoration, the flower would know, and the consequences would not be gentle. Kair's hands trembled. He closed his eyes. I'm here because no one else survived. I'm here because my people deserve a chance, even if I never see the world they become. He reached out. His fingertips met the petals. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the flower exploded into a burst of gold and white light, swirling around him until every breath felt like wind and fire combined. It seeped into him, warm, healing, searching. When the light faded, the flower was gone. The guardians bowed their heads.
He had passed the first trial. The second test emerged without warning. The sky darkened, the valley dimmed. A hum, deep and ominous, rolled across the terrain like a wave. Before Kair could brace himself, the ground split open beneath him, not to swallow him, but to reveal an underground chamber glowing with violet energy. He was pulled downward, gently but firmly, as if gravity itself had changed direction. The chamber was silent, silent but alive. Voices echoed around him, familiar voices. "Kair, help me! Kair, why didn't you save us? Kair, what have you done?" His mother's face appeared in the pulsing light, then his father, then friends, teachers, strangers, every face he had lost in the supernova. "No," Kair whispered, stumbling backward. "These aren't real." The illusions grew sharper, clearer, accusing. The energy of the chamber tried to overwrite his memories, replacing truth with guilt. It pressed against his mind like claws, trying to split open old wounds until nothing was left but pain. Kair dropped to one knee, gripping his head. "You're not them," he growled. "You're shadows, tests, nothing more." But the voices grew louder. "You abandoned us. You lived while we died. You failed your world." Kair slammed his fist against the glowing ground, tears burning his eyes, not of fear, but fury. "I didn't fail them. I'm trying to save what's left." The chamber pulsed violently. His memories, real ones, flashed before him, his childhood in crystalline fields, the laughter of friends, the teachings of his elders, not illusions, truths. "I carry them with me," he whispered, "all of them, and I will carry them into whatever comes next." The chamber brightened, then the illusions shattered like glass. The voices faded. The ground solidified beneath him. The Guardian's harmonic song drifted through the opening above. He had passed the second trial. The final test was not physical, not mental. It was a choice. The Guardians gathered around him as the seed stirred beneath the soil, glowing with increasing intensity. The stone ribs lit up once more, projecting symbols across the sky. Fractals, patterns, old runes of a world he didn't know. The lead Guardian approached him, touching the ground to produce a sequence of harmonics. The translator interpreted slowly, as if hesitant. "You must choose your path. Stay and protect, or leave and never return." Kair blinked, stunned. "What? Why would I leave?" The reply came instantly. "If you stay, you become one with this world. If you leave, you break all bonds. No one may claim both sky and soil." A tear slid down Kair's cheek. If he stayed, he would never again see the stars as an explorer, never return to space, never share the knowledge he carried. If he left, he would never see what the seed became, never watch his people's rebirth. Both choices were sacrifices. Both were losses. Both were futures. He inhaled shakily. "My people deserve to live. If staying is what ensures that, then I stay." The valley fell silent. Then every Guardian lowered their head, a gesture of respect, a gesture of acceptance. The seed's glow brightened with warmth. Kair had passed all three trials. But the celebration was short-lived, because far above the valley, the shadow in orbit finally began to descend. The collectors were coming, and this time they were not hiding.
The shadow that had lingered at the edge of Ano 7's sky finally broke the boundary between watching and hunting. Kair felt the air change before he saw anything. A drop in temperature, a shift in pressure, a tremble that ran not through the ground, but through the atmosphere itself. Even the Guardians reacted. For the first time since he'd landed, their bodies stiffened in unison, their colors dulled to a flat metallic bronze. Camouflage or warning, Kair couldn't tell. Their harmonic voices, usually soft and fluid, tightened like drawn strings. Something ancient had arrived. The clouds above the valley spiraled as a massive vessel pierced the sky. No flame, no heat, no propulsion. It simply slid through the atmosphere, displacing everything around it as though reality had been peeled back to make room. The collector ship was enormous, larger than the Vespara, larger than any Avaruun craft ever built. Its hull was a jagged mosaic of plates that shifted and rearranged themselves like churning armor. No lights, no windows, no identifiable structure. It was not built for travel. It was built for extraction. Kair felt a cold pulse in his chest. "They found us," he whispered. The Guardians didn't turn to him. They faced the sky, bodies bending into defensive postures, light rippling across their limbs. The seed hummed beneath the soil, not in fear, but in response. It recognized the threat. A fissure opened along the underside of the collector ship. From it descended a slender, needle-like drone, silent, metallic, gliding downward without disturbing the air. It hovered above the valley, scanning the terrain with a thin line of red light. When the beam passed over Kair, he felt a sudden jolt, like something digging into his memories with cold fingers. "No, don't!" He clutched his head. The drone dug deeper. Images spilled out of his mind without permission. His childhood, his parents, the destruction of Avaruun, his mission. The seed. The drone froze on that memory. Then its entire frame vibrated with predatory excitement. Kair's breath caught in his throat. They're not just after the seed. They're after the knowledge tied to it. The Guardians reacted instantly. One lifted its arm and struck the ground with a force that rippled like a shockwave. The stone ribs ignited in bright blues and greens, unleashing a harmonic blast that shattered the air. The drone screamed, a digital, distorted sound, and staggered sideways. Its red beam flickered and snapped in half. The Guardians advanced. The drone retreated, but only for a moment.
Without warning, the drone emitted a new frequency, a harsh, grating pulse that scraped across the valley like metal grinding against bone. Kair covered his ears, though the sound vibrated inside his skull more than through the air. The collector ship responded. Panels slid open across its hull. Dozens of new drones emerged, then hundreds. A swarm. A cloud of blades and eyes and data-hunched cores. The sky darkened under their weight. Kair felt his stomach drop. "This is an extraction protocol," he whispered. "They're going to take everything, life, memory, technology, even the soil if it holds value." The Guardians moved closer to him, forming a protective barrier. Their lights flickered rapidly, forming communication patterns Kair couldn't decipher. For the first time, one of them touched his arm. Warm, alive, intentional. The translator crackled as it interpreted the harmonic pulse. "Prepare. They will test you too." Kair swallowed. Test him? How? Why? But there was no time for questions. The swarm descended like nightfall. Drones screamed through the air, slicing clouds in their wake. Beams of scanning light shot across the ground. Some drones dug directly into the soil, searching for the seed signature. Others aimed for him. "Kair!" he shouted instinctively, calling his own name as if grounding himself. "Move!" He dove aside as a drone sliced the air where he had stood. Another shot a beam of energy that scorched the ground with surgical precision. The Guardians retaliated, projecting waves of harmonic force that destabilized the drones mid-flight. For a moment, a single, fragile moment, the drones faltered. Then the collector ship shifted. A massive aperture opened at its base. Kair's heart stopped. They weren't just scanning now, they were descending. A colossal tendril of mechanical root unraveled from the opening like a mechanical root searching for fertile soil. Its tip glowed with hungry red light. Kair recognized it from Avaruun's lost archives, a harvester, designed to strip an entire valley bare within minutes.
to consume biological matter, to drain energy, to extract memories, to take the seed. The Guardians gathered around the planting site, their bodies brightening until they shone like lanterns. Their harmonics rose sharply, clashing against the Harvester's energy field. Kair watched in disbelief. They weren't just protecting the seed, they were calling something, or someone. A deeper rumble rolled through the valley. The ground pulsed beneath his feet. The seed glowed brighter than ever before. The Guardians turned to Kair. Their eyes were fierce, focused. The translator produced a final message, one that sent chills through his entire body.
The Harvester touched the ground with a sound that didn't belong to any natural world, a grinding, metallic howl that vibrated through the valley and into Kair's bones. Segmented plates shifted, unlocking rows of crimson vents that pulsed like the gills of a predator tasting the air. The Guardians reacted instantly. Their bodies erupted in blinding streams of light, forming a protective arc around the seed's burial site. Harmonic frequencies soared through the air, colliding with the Harvester's scanning waves and distorting them just enough to buy precious seconds. Seconds Kair desperately needed. The ground trembled beneath him, not in fear, but in readiness. The planet itself seemed to stir, awakening its defenses as if recognizing the threat descending upon it. Kair forced himself to move. Not without the seed! Not like this! One Guardian, the Elder, marked by deep amber lines across its limbs, approached Kair with urgency. Its light flickered in sharp patterns, projecting symbols into the air. The translator strained, glitching under the chaos before forming coherent words. Decoy. Draw them away. We protect the seed. Kair shook his head violently. No, you can't fight that thing alone. There's hundreds of drones. The Guardian struck the ground with its limb, sending a focused harmonic blast that silenced him. Not in anger, in finality. The message was clear. This was already decided. Another Guardian extended an arm, touching Kair's chest with a soft pulse of energy. His breathing steadied, his heartbeat eased. A warmth spread through him, a gift, a reassurance, or perhaps a farewell. The translator whispered, "Run." But the truth struck him with a stab of dread. The seed couldn't be moved. Not now. Not without killing it, and everything it might create. The Guardians knew that. The planet knew that. And Kair, in his heart, already knew it too. This was no longer about escape. It was about buying enough time for the seed to survive.
Kair sprinted toward the Vespara, lungs burning, feet slipping on the trembling terrain as drones screamed overhead. Beams of red light sliced the air around him, scanning, targeting, adjusting. The ship loomed ahead, scarred, old, but loyal. A drone dove toward him. Kair leapt aside, rolling hard across the ground. Stone ribs crashed down behind him, animated by the Guardian's harmonics, forming temporary shields that shattered under the onslaught of laser fire. He ran harder. The Vespara's ramp descended automatically as the ship recognized his frantic biometrics. Kair, the onboard system warned in a monotone voice, multiple hostile units detected. Structural integrity at risk. "No kidding," he yelled, diving inside. The ramp sealed shut just as 3 drones slammed against the hull. Inside, the ship rattled violently as systems overloaded. But Kair wasn't preparing for liftoff. Not yet. Instead, he rushed to the seed's resonance console, the one linked to its song. He rerouted signals, amplified frequencies, redirected harmonic emissions. He wasn't hiding the seed, he was amplifying himself, creating a perfect, irresistible decoy. The collectors had scanned his mind earlier. They knew he carried knowledge tied to the seed. To them, he was nearly as valuable. Kair trembled as he pressed the final sequence. "This is going to hurt," he muttered. He activated the broadcast. A shockwave of harmonic data erupted from the Vespara, firing upward like a beacon. The collectors reacted instantly. The swarm shifted formation, hundreds of drones peeling away from the valley and turning toward the ship with predatory precision. It worked, but it worked too well. As the Vespara's engines roared, preparing for a rapid ascent, Kair glimpsed the valley through the side viewport. The Guardians were still fighting. The Elder Guardian stood at the forefront, glimmering with impossible brilliance as the Harvester descended upon them. It raised both arms to the sky, creating a barrier of light so forceful that the drones shattered against it like glass. For a moment, a single breathtaking moment, the Guardians held back the collector tide. But the Harvester struck again, harder. A beam of red energy carved through the battlefield. One Guardian fell, collapsing into fractals of golden dust. Another stumbled, its light flickering erratically. Then Kair's breath caught in his throat. The Elder Guardian stepped forward. Its body expanded, radiating a fierce brilliance. A harmonic tone burst from it, so pure, so powerful that the Harvester itself faltered. Then, the Guardian exploded in a cascade of shimmering light. The blast ripped through the drones, disabling dozens instantly, forcing the Harvester to retract momentarily. Kair's vision blurred. No, no, no! The sacrifice had been deliberate. To protect the seed, to protect him, to buy a few more seconds of life for a dying species' final hope. He slammed a fist against the Vespara's console. "Hold on," he whispered. "Your sacrifice won't be for nothing." The Vespara lifted off violently, dodging drones and climbing through chaotic winds. Kair's hands flew across the controls, pushing the ship toward the upper atmosphere. The collector's swarm chased him relentlessly, red beams carving streaks across the sky as they closed in. The ship groaned under the strain, panels sparked, warnings screamed, but the decoy signal held. The collectors followed him, not the seed. And Kair, for the first time since leaving his dead world behind, felt a spark of fierce defiance flare in his chest. "If it's me you want," he growled, locking his trajectory, "then come and get me." The Vespara vanished into the sky, a shrinking streak of light swallowed by the storm-churned clouds. But down in the valley, beneath layers of soil alive with ancient memory, the seed pulsed with quiet determination. The world had not lost its protector. It had simply gained time. With Kair gone, the planet shifted its entire focus inward. The soil around the seed thickened, warming with biothermal currents drawn from the planet's core. Mineral veins twisted gently, forming channels that acted like arteries, feeding nutrients into the seed's surface. Light seeped up from the cracks in soft waves, neither bright nor dim, but soothing, guiding. Then, slowly, a thread of pure white energy extended upward from the seed, like the first sprout of a newborn star. It curled through the soil, soft and curious, tasting the world that might one day become its home. The Guardians gathered around the site, their lights dimmed in a communal meditative glow. They had witnessed germination before, but not like this, never like this. Avaruun's matrix seed was not merely biological. It was memory incarnate, culture encoded, life shaped through generations of knowledge. It contained not just DNA, but destiny. And now, destiny was taking root. Far above the valley, the collector swarm still hunted Kair through the atmosphere, but not all of them. A faction of drones split silently from the main pursuit, descending back toward the valley with surgical precision. These were the extractors, machines designed not for battle, but for intrusion. They glided low across the terrain, scanning soil layers, searching for anomalies. Their beams sliced through rock and mineral like scalpels, looking for the seed's energy signature. They found it. The drones swarmed forward, and the valley reacted. Without warning, the ground erupted in a bloom of crystalline spikes, shooting upward with explosive speed. The drones collided with them, their shells cracking on impact. Some shattered completely, others staggered, struggling to adapt. Eno 7 was not passive. It was aware. It was alive, and it was capable of war.
Vibrations traveled through the terrain like commands. Ridges rose like shields, pits opened like jaws. Mineral dust coalesced into shimmering fields that distorted sensors and scrambled the drone's targeting systems. The collectors had come to harvest. Instead, they had awakened a storm. The surviving drones regrouped, recalibrating with eerie synchronization. Red scanning lights ignited again, slicing through dust toward the seed's location. They would not be tricked by illusions, not this time. But the Guardians were ready. Their bodies expanded with intense luminescence. Each Guardian emitted a harmonic burst, pure, resonant frequencies that collided with the drone's systems. The sound was beautiful and lethal. Drones faltered mid-flight, crashing into stone. Others lost cohesion, melting into molten shards. The Guardians moved with purpose, not rage. They did not seek destruction. They sought balance. And in their world, balance meant no machine would take a seed meant to live. Deep beneath the ground, the seed felt the conflict through the vibrations in the soil. It responded not with fear, but with growth. The sprout thickened, branching like veins of living crystal. More tendrils reached outward, connecting with the planet's own mineral networks. The seed and the world began to synchronize. Energy surged, memory spread, creation unfolded. The Guardians sensed the shift and uttered a single harmonized tone: becoming. The seed was no longer dormant. It had begun its transformation into the first tree, the foundation of a new world. But the collectors were relentless. Above the valley, a shadow darkened the sun. The harvester descended again, slower this time, measured, adapting its tactics. Its segments reshaped into drilling arrays. Its beams grew sharper, refined. It had recognized its enemy, a living world protecting a living seed. And this time, it did not send drones to do the work. It came itself. The Guardians tightened their circle. The planet shifted its defenses. The seed glowed with newfound strength. The war was no longer silent. It was a heartbeat away from erupting into full catastrophe. All while high above the atmosphere, Kair fought for his life, unaware that the seed he planted was already rewriting the fate of an entire world.
The war for the seed ended not with an explosion, nor with a final decisive strike, but with a shift so profound and quiet that only a living world could have produced it. As the harvester descended, carving the air with its segmented drill-like tendrils, the planet responded with a force beyond anything the collectors had anticipated. The seed's tendrils, now matured into luminous crystalline veins, surged upward and outward, weaving themselves into the land like a pulsating nervous system. The planet and the seed were no longer separate beings. They had become one. The ground at the center of the valley cracked open, not in destruction, but in birth. A massive trunk of living crystal emerged, glowing with soft gold and deep blue hues. Branches formed in spirals, bending in fractal patterns that mirrored both Avaruun and Eno 7's natural geometry. Leaves unfurled like shards of light, shimmering with encoded memories, songs, histories, entire lifetimes of a lost civilization woven into living matter. The guardians fell to their knees, their lights dimmed in reverence. They had witnessed the rise of the first tree, the heart of the new Avaruun. Its energy pulsed outward, forming a dome of shimmering resonance. When the harvester's beams struck the dome, they dispersed into harmless static, as if the machine's predatory hunger meant nothing in the presence of creation. For the first time, the collectors hesitated. The harvester recalibrated, shifting its plating, attempting to match frequencies, but the tree adapted faster. Its branches twisted, emitting harmonic waves that destabilized the harvester's systems. Drones fell from the sky like dead insects. The collectors could devour stars, strip worlds bare, but they could not consume something that fought back with memory, life, and purpose. The harvester retreated, slowly, unwillingly, dragging its crippled drones back toward the upper atmosphere. And for the first time in its existence, it fled a target. Eno 7 sang in triumph. The guardians rose. The valley breathed. The seed had won. Far above, in the cold exosphere, Kair's Vespera limped through a shattered flight path, barely functional after outrunning half the swarm. His body ached, his mind trembled. Yet as he broke through the final cloud layer, he saw it. The valley pulsed like a star. Light rose from it in radiant waves, and in the center stood the tree. Not a flicker, not a sprout, a beginning. Kair felt his throat tighten. "I made it in time," he whispered, tears blurring his vision. "You survived. All of you survived." He brought the Vespera down gently, stumbling out of the ship as his legs fought the trembling in his muscles. The guardians approached him, not cautiously, not defensively, but with welcome. Their bodies glowed with warm hues, echoing the patterns of the tree. One guardian extended a hand toward him. The translator interpreted, "Your world lives, because you chose to stay." Kair glanced at the tree, the heart of the new civilization forming right before his eyes. The tendrils pulsed with gentle waves of knowledge, promising future generations, forests, cultures, songs. "I didn't stay," Kair whispered. "I just couldn't leave you." The guardian tilted its head. "You stayed in purpose, not in place." Kair closed his eyes. The meaning was clear. He could leave the planet, physically, but his purpose, his promise, his sacrifice, those would always remain.
Days passed, then weeks. The tree grew into a towering monument of shimmering energy and crystalline bark. Its roots sank deep into the planet, healing fissures, balancing magnetic currents, reshaping the land with gentle precision. New life sprouted around it. Creatures emerged from hiding. The guardians' numbers grew, some born, some awakened, some created from the harmonic resonance itself. Kair became part of the valley's daily rhythm. Not a ruler, not a god, a caretaker, a storyteller. He documented the growth, taught the guardians fragments of Avaruun's language, learned their harmonic songs, and watched as the valley transformed from battleground to sanctuary. One evening, as the twin moons of Eno 7 aligned, Kair sat beneath the tree. Its branches reached into the sky like antennae made of living memory. A thin thread of light descended, gently touching Kair's forehead. A vision bloomed in his mind. A message, a story, a warning. He understood. The tree wanted its existence shared, not to boast, not to dominate, but to prepare the galaxy for what lurked in silence. Kair nodded slowly. "I'll tell them," he whispered. "I'll tell everyone what happened here, about you, about the Guardians, about the Collectors, about hope." The tree's light brightened in gentle approval. The Vespera's engines hummed softly behind him, repaired by the planet itself, harmonized to its frequencies. Kair rose to his feet. For the first time, leaving didn't feel like abandonment. It felt like destiny. As he boarded his ship, the Guardians bowed. The tree lowered a branch of glowing crystalline leaves, brushing the Vespera's hull like a farewell blessing. Kair touched the controls. "Goodbye," he whispered. "Or maybe, see you again." The Vespera lifted off, rising slowly into the sky, leaving the valley glowing with life. As he broke through the atmosphere, he gazed down on the planet one last time. He didn't see destruction. He didn't see war. He saw rebirth. The galaxy would know the story of Avaruun's last seed, and of the world brave enough to let it grow.